Coronation Street viewers breathed a collective sigh of relief this week when Becky Swain was finally jailed for her crimes. But some Metro readers aren't convinced the sinister character is gone for good. Becky first appeared on the cobbles in a dramatic twist last summer, delivering a huge shock to her wife, Lisa Swain. For years, Lisa and her daughter Betsy had believed Becky was killed in a hit-and-run while responding to a burglary nearly 4 years earlier. It later emerged that Becky had been living in Spain under an assumed name. She insisted she had been working undercover to infiltrate a dangerous criminal gang and was forced to fake her death when the operation collapsed. However, as time passed, it became increasingly obvious that her story didn't add up. In reality, Becky was far more ruthless and corrupt than anyone had imagined. Her return to Weatherfield was triggered by the discovery that Lisa was engaged to Carla Connor, and she immediately set about trying to reclaim the life she had lost. Through manipulation and deceit, she wormed her way back into Lisa and Betsy's world, creating tension between Lisa and Carla that ultimately destroyed their relationship. Beyond her family drama, Becky was also desperate to keep her criminal past buried. To protect herself, she arranged an attack on D.I. Costello. Unbeknown to her, Carla and Kit Green were already closing in on the truth behind her lies. When Becky caught Carla searching her flat for evidence, she abducted the factory boss and held her captive in an airing cupboard for weeks. At the same time, she persuaded Lisa and Betsy to flee to Spain with abandoning Carla without access to her vital anti-rejection medication. Fortunately, Kit managed to locate Carla, and together they chased after the Swains. Carla then phoned Lisa to expose Becky's deception. Fate intervened when Becky's dash to the ferry terminal ended in a head-on collision, triggering a devastating multi-car crash. Once it was confirmed that Lisa and Betsy were safe, Lisa arrested Becky on charges including fraud and kidnapping. Even then, Becky refused to accept defeat. During a prison visit, she threatened Lisa, claiming she would frame her as an accomplice and ensure she went down with her. When Betsy learned of the threat, she confronted Becky herself, angrily telling her she wished her mother had truly died. The confrontation appeared to shake Becky, who later pleaded guilty without implicating Lisa and received a 12-year prison sentence. While many viewers welcomed the outcome, some Metro readers, including Irene, remain convinced that this storyline isn't over. Several fans have speculated that Becky could one day escape from prison and seek revenge on Carla and Lisa. "See her again in 2 years when she breaks out for revenge," James wrote on Facebook, while Kit added, "There'll definitely be a twist. She'll escape and return to the street, going after Carla and Lisa." Another fan, Roy, not that Roy, suggested an even darker turn, claiming Becky could break free and kill Carla. Meanwhile, Robert imagined an entire future arc, predicting Becky would escape, return to Weatherfield, take someone hostage, and ultimately be killed by Betsy in self-defense before resurfacing in another soap. Others are hoping Becky's chapter is truly closed, though some fear she could resurface after an early release. Lisa said Becky's out of our lives for good, but with a 12-year sentence, she'll likely serve half. So she'll be back, Janet warned. So, has Becky really been written out for good? Or do Metro readers have reason to be concerned that her story is far from finished? Coronation Street boss confirms 2 new targets for villainous Theo. What makes Theo Silverton such an effective Coronation Street villain? The answer is simple. He always manages to stoop to shocking new depths. The egotistical abuser has held Todd Grimshaw captive in a terrifying domestic abuse nightmare, subjecting his so-called fiancée to repeated degradation, psychological manipulation, and savage assaults. Living in fear, Todd has found it incredibly difficult to escape the toxic pattern as Theo gradually isolated him from everyone who cared about him. A glimmer of hope finally emerged when Billy Mayhew began to suspect something was wrong. While getting ready at Debbie Webster's wedding, Billy noticed the bruises covering Todd's body. After suffering yet another brutal attack at Theo's hands, Todd eventually found the courage to confide in his longtime friend about the abuse. But just as help appeared to be within reach, tragedy struck. In ITV's eagerly awaited Corriedale spinoff, Theo, Billy, and Todd were traveling together in a minibus that burst into flames following a devastating multi-car collision. Despite having the chance to save Billy, Theo chose not to risk himself for Todd's former partner, a man he had always deeply resented. In a harrowing scene, Theo ensured that an unconscious Billy was tightly strapped into his seat before abandoning him in the burning wreckage. With that act, Theo added murder to his growing list of crimes. Although Todd has finally broken free, he is now consumed by grief and completely alone, making him more vulnerable than ever and giving Theo the perfect opportunity to worm his way back into his life. With Billy gone, it seems no one is left to protect Todd from his abuser, or is there? Coronation Street executive producer Kate Brooks has confirmed that Theo's next victims will be the people Todd holds closest, those he considers his family. Summer has long represented both the daughter Todd never had and a caring younger sister. When Todd and Billy were still together, they acted as her guardians. George, meanwhile, is Todd's boss and the man who introduced him to the funeral business. But he also plays a vital role as a father figure who treats Todd like his own son. Because Summer and George provide Todd with comfort, confidence, and happiness away from Theo, they pose a serious threat. Upcoming episodes will see Theo begin to manipulate and target them in a desperate attempt to keep Todd under his control. According to Kate Brooks, Theo's overwhelming guilt over Billy's death, coupled with his fear of losing Todd again, has made him more dangerous than ever. We'll see Theo completely eaten up by guilt, Kate explains. Yes, he's done something utterly vile, but in his own twisted thinking, he convinces himself it was essential to hold on to Todd. In his warped and damaged way, he truly believes he loves him, and that drives him to become this supposed pillar of support for Todd, Summer, and George. She adds, part of that behavior is about covering up his guilt over Billy's death, but it's also because he came frighteningly close to losing Todd. He's determined that it won't happen again. So far, Theo has successfully played the role of the devoted boyfriend in front of Summer and George, carefully keeping their trust to avoid raising suspicion. However, his actions are driven by jealousy, forcing him to tread a dangerous line between charm and control. Kate Brooks reveals how that balance begins to unravel as Theo exploits Todd's grief at his lowest point. We'll see Theo grow increasingly manipulative, she says. He starts drawing Todd back in because Todd feels he needs someone to survive, and Theo positions himself as that person. He becomes a lifeline not only for Todd, but for Summer and George too. As viewers, we know exactly what Theo is capable of and the torment he's inflicted, but Todd is incredibly exposed and vulnerable right now. Todd's ordeal reflects the familiar cycle of abusive relationships, marked by intense highs followed by devastating lows. After the powerful coercive control storyline involving Yasmin Metcalf and Jeff Metcalf, the show faced the challenge of presenting a fresh and realistic take on domestic abuse. Viewers have often felt frustrated when characters come close to escaping, only to have their freedom snatched away at the last moment. In response, Coronation Street aired a special episode in December titled Behind Closed Doors, using CCTV, Ring doorbell footage, and police body cameras to tell Todd's story in a raw and immersive way. Kate Brooks defends the decision to highlight the harsh reality of abuse. We wanted to reflect the truth of this storyline, she explains. It doesn't get wrapped up neatly after a few months. It's ongoing. As we move into the new year, Todd and Theo remain central to the show as we continue to tell this domestic abuse story honestly and realistically. It can be incredibly tough to watch at times, as the Behind Closed Doors episode showed, but it's an important story to tell. As for why the storyline has struck such a chord, Kate is quick to praise the performances of Gareth Pierce and James Cartwright. I think both actors are absolutely phenomenal, she says. The depth and nuance they bring to their roles makes the story compelling, powerful, and impossible to look away from. Coronation Street airs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1, with episodes also available on ITVX and YouTube.